I sat at my desk, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, drowning out the whispers of ambition and desperation around me. The rhythmic clacking of keyboards filled the sterile office, where dreams went to die. I had poured everything into my role at the firm: early mornings, late nights, and missed family dinners. And yet, as I looked up to see my boss's shadow looming in the doorway, I felt an icy dread settle in my stomach. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice lacking any warmth. My heart raced as I followed her into the sterile conference room, the walls lined with corporate posters that promised teamwork and growth. As I sat down, I sensed something ominous. "I'm afraid we have to let you go," she stated flatly, as if reading from a script. The words crashed over me like a tidal wave. "After all your hard work," I stammered, disbelief flooding my voice. Her expression didn't waver. "It's just business. But we'll take care of the details. Just business." Those two words echoed in my mind, each one thicker with contempt than the last. As I packed my things, a few framed photos, a potted succulent that had miraculously survived my neglect, I felt a warm flush of rage stir within me. Was I really just another casualty in this ruthless corporate game? In that moment, a decision crystallized. Instead of slinking away quietly, I would make my voice heard. I stared at the blank page in front of me and started to write a letter detailing the toxicity that had poisoned the workplace, the favoritism, the culture of fear, and the countless dismissals of employee concerns. That night, in my tiny apartment, I hesitated, my finger hovering over the post button on social media. Would this backfire? But this was bigger than me. I pressed it and watched as the words spread across the screen, startling in their stark honesty. And as the notifications dinged in, I felt a rush of adrenaline. What I didn't anticipate was how my quiet exit would unleash a storm that carved new paths and forged unexpected alliances. But this was just the beginning. Before we continue with this surprising revelation, a quick alert for those of you who follow our stories. YouTube has been removing subscriptions lately, so check if you're still subscribed and hit that like button to support the channel. Now, back to the crucial moment. As the first wave of notifications flooded my phone, I was flooded with adrenaline. How could a simple letter intertwine my fate with countless others? Messages poured in. Friends, former colleagues, even complete strangers, began to share their own stories of corporate mistreatment and silent suffering, resonating with every word I had shared. Suddenly, I wasn't alone. I was part of a collective that had felt invisible for too long. The next morning, I woke up to a news alert. My post had gone viral. My heart raced at the thought of the world now scrutinizing the very company I had dedicated my life to. What struck me most was the wave of support. It felt like a community rising from the ashes of despair. Tags from local news outlets accumulated, and inquiries poured in, eager to hear my side of the story. People wanted to understand how a place meant to foster ambition had instead become a graveyard for dreams. Throughout the day, I received calls from journalists wanting interviews and podcasts reaching out to schedule discussions. My voice, once silenced, was now the anthem of many. "What's next?" one of my friends asked when I shared the news. "You've sparked something, keep it going." With every share and retweet, I felt a stirring sense of purpose igniting inside me. Just when I thought it couldn't get any more intense, I received an unexpected message from a former executive. "I admire your courage," it said, "but I also know the system well. Would you be open to discussing a potential opportunity?" My pulse quickened. Was this the lifeline I never saw coming, or just another corporate ruse? I had a choice to make, but one thing was certain. Whatever decision I took next would echo even louder. The stage was set, and I was no longer the quiet employee. I was becoming a voice for change. Stay tuned, because my next move could change everything. And trust me, you won't want to miss it. The following days were a whirlwind. My post had ignited a wildfire of conversations that rippled far beyond my expectations. Each notification, each comment felt like a push, urging me to keep the momentum alive. As my phone buzzed with endless support, I knew I couldn't just fade into the background. I made it my mission to amplify the stories of those who felt silenced, to create a narrative that resonated with the struggles of so many. One afternoon, while scrolling through the barrage of messages, my heart skipped when I spotted a familiar name, Sarah, a former colleague whose laughter had once filled our break room. We hadn't spoken since the day she left under murky circumstances. With a tentative hand, I typed, "How have you been?" The reply was instant, charged with the weight of shared understanding. "I saw your post. Thank you for speaking out. I've felt alone ever since I left. Maybe it's time we joined forces." My mind raced. What if we pooled our experiences? What if we created a platform to expose not just our stories but the systemic issues plaguing corporate culture? As the idea took shape, another message pinged in. This time, it was from Alex, a former executive I hadn't yet met in person. "Let's talk," he suggested. "I can help you navigate the media storm." So here I was, a simple employee, suddenly at the helm of a grassroots movement. The sheer thought gave me butterflies. But with power comes scrutiny. Each step towards building this collective came with risks. My name was out there now, and I was no longer just a face in the crowd. I had to tread carefully. Our first meeting was pivotal. The energy was electric. Would we really be bold enough to confront the giants that had kept us silent for so long? And just when I thought I'd seen it all, I received a notification that sparked even deeper intrigue. A prominent activist wanted to collaborate. The chaos was building, and soon, my quiet rebellion might explode into a movement bigger than I ever imagined. Curious about what happens next? Trust me, you won't want to miss the unfolding of this extraordinary journey. Stay tuned. As the chaos settled around me, I felt a thrilling mixture of fear and exhilaration. I had stepped into a world of awareness and activism, where my voice acted as a catalyst for change, and I couldn't help but wonder just how far this journey would take me. The whirlwind of messages was relentless, and the excitement within me bubbled to the surface with every beep of my phone. The next day, Sarah and I decided to meet up at the quiet coffee shop on the corner, a place that once served as our lunchtime refuge. I needed clarity, some grounding amid the chaos. As I pushed open the door, the smell of freshly brewed coffee enveloped me. A comforting scent that now felt like a masquerade, hiding the turmoil that lay just beneath the surface. We settled into a cozy corner, and after the usual pleasantries, Sarah's expression turned serious. "Your post opened doors, you know. People feel empowered, but this is just the beginning. They need us to keep pushing for change." I nodded, acknowledging the weight of her words. But where do we even begin? What power do we truly have? Her eyes gleamed with determination. "We start by organizing. Think about those who reached out to you. What if we brought them together? We can share strategies, ideas, and support one another in ways the company never did." A flicker of excitement ignited in my chest. I could envision it creating a safe space for those who had suffered in silence. A network where we could share our stories and fight not just for ourselves, but for those who remained trapped in a system that showed no compassion. As we spoke, the ideas flowed freely. We'd invite our anonymous allies to join us, transform our voices into a symphony, demanding respect. The stakes were high, but the possibility of igniting change sent shivers down my spine. By the time we emptied our coffees, we knew we had something bigger than ourselves, a mission. We decided to start a small group, a safe haven for employees who felt disempowered by their workplaces, a forum to exchange experiences and insights. The name we coalesced around: Voices of Valor. Over the next few days, we used social media to our advantage. Engaging posts and insightful discussions caught the attention of many. There was a palpable sense of unity building, and our group quickly grew. Each new member brought a story, a fresh perspective that reinforced our commitment to challenge the status quo. Then, in the midst of our growing community, a message arrived that sent shivers down my spine. It was from a major television network. They had heard about Voices of Valor and wanted to do a feature story on us. I stared at my phone, unable to process the words. This was it. This was the moment I had anticipated but also dreaded. Putting ourselves out there meant diving headfirst into uncharted waters. Do we really want to go public like this? I asked Sarah later that evening, fear creeping into my thoughts. What if it doesn't create the change we hope for? What if we become targets? But what if it does? She countered, her gaze unwavering. What if our message gets out and inspires real change? Think about the voices we represent, the people who have stood up but were cut down for speaking out. We owe it to them. Her resolve fortified my own. We had already absorbed so much energy from those who felt let down. And if one story could shake a system, then perhaps letting the world see us was exactly what we needed. That night, as I geared up for the interview, questions swirled in my mind. How would I articulate the pain and anger that coiled within me? I took a deep breath and started drafting my thoughts. The personal struggle of being let go, the injustices I witnessed daily, the victories of those who stood by me. I knew that sharing these truths would require vulnerability, but it was also my chance to speak volumes on behalf of others. When the day of the interview arrived, the atmosphere pulsed with anticipation. Sarah and I arrived at the studio, nerves tingling in our fingertips as we waited backstage. We hadn't planned for any of this when we had composed our heart-wrenching post. And yet, here we were about to share our stories with the world. As the camera rolled, a bright light illuminated us both. I could feel each heartbeat echoing in my ears as the host introduced us. Today, we have two brave individuals here who are ready to tell their tale of resilience and strength against the corporate machine that took so much away from them. I could barely hear the audience's cheers, lost in the rhythm of my racing heart. The first question landed like a drumbeat against my chest. Can you share your experience with us? I glanced at Sarah and leaned into the microphone, searching for my words amid the chaos. What happened to me was more than just losing a job. It was the erasure of everything I believed I stood for. The long nights spent working hard, and the connections with my colleagues. But instead of letting that finish me, I came here to show that unity is stronger than loss. As the interview unfolded, I felt our combined stories ripple through the airwaves. Each sound echoed with the truth we'd unearthed, resonating with countless others. I could see our audience begin to lean in, intrigued by our determination, their reactions affirming our struggles. I saw future advocates taking shape, silent warriors ready to break their chains. The interview continued, and we delved deeper into the injustices far too many had silently endured. Each sentence drew more support, and I realized we were no longer merely telling our story, we were sparking a movement. As the announcement of our organization rippled across social media, I sensed a tide turning. Calls for solidarity flooded our group, and those who had felt invisible began to connect with our message, gifting voices of valor more momentum than I could have imagined. But just as the excitement grew, another notification echoed like a warning bell. Our message had traveled fast, and one of the companies faced a growing backlash. It was a labyrinth of reactions, many lauding our courage, while others silently retaliated. Suddenly, I realized we were sitting at the precipice of something bigger than I dared to imagine. What would happen next? Were we ready for the consequences of awakening the slumbering beast of corporate negligence? What I hadn't prepared for was the incoming storm of uncertainty. The world was watching. Stay tuned, because in our final chapter, the aftermath would be revealed. Would we rise in the face of adversity, or crumble under the pressure of our newfound visibility? As everything continued to unfold, would our fight for dignity and respect ignite a revolutionary change, or would the powers that be seek to silence us once again? You won't want to miss what's next. As the days turned into weeks, the fervor around Voices of Valor surged. Our story had captured hearts and sparked conversations across social media platforms, bringing attention to the dark corners of corporate practices that often went unnoticed. Every new follower, every share, felt like a small flame adding to the growing fire of resistance. But with every triumph came the looming shadow of retribution. Increasingly, I felt the weight of my decision to speak out heavy on my shoulders. Late at night, as I lay wide awake, I wondered if I had unwittingly declared war against a system built to crush dissent. It was during one of those sleepless nights that Sarah texted me with a simple, yet potent question. Are we ready to face the consequences? Her message awoke something inside me, a profound realization that we had ignited a movement. But with it came the responsibility to protect those who had chosen to lend their voices. Turning the tide against corporate giants would require resilience, unity, and perhaps a level of courage I had yet to fully discover. I took a deep breath and replied, "We've got to be. It's time to prepare for the storm." As a community, we began strategizing. We organized meetings, not just to share our stories, but also to brainstorm actionable steps towards real change. A passionate group of individuals rallied around us, each bringing their talent and experience to the table. Some were skilled in media, others in legal matters, and a few had experience in advocacy. Each meeting felt electric, like we were a mosaic of shared determination piecing together a new vision for the future. And then came the day we had been preparing for, a public rally to bring awareness to toxic workplace cultures. What began as an idea morphed into a well-coordinated event, uniting not only the members of Voices of Valor, but many allies who had been inspired by our mission. Flyers circulated, local news stations showed interest, and even a few influential figures tweeted their support. However, as excitement neared its peak, the dreaded memo came from my former employer. It was a threat of legal action for defamation if we proceeded with the rally. "Do you think we should back down?" I asked Sarah during a particularly tense planning session, panic bubbling in my throat. Her expression was resolute. "This is exactly what they want to silence us. If we back down now, it validates their intimidation tactics. We cannot let fear dictate our course of action." Her words catalyzed a decision within me. If we had learned anything from our experiences, it was that silence only perpetuated toxicity. Encouraged by the support, I stood up, my heart racing. Then we stand together. We fight back not just for ourselves but for anyone who has been afraid to speak out. The rally day arrived with a palpable buzz in the air. As I stepped onto the stage, the weight of emotions collided within me: fear, exhilaration, and unwavering determination. The crowd stretched as far as the eye could see, a sea of faces ready to raise their voices against the injustices we had all faced. I could almost feel the collective heartbeat of our shared cause pulsing through the gathering. With the microphone in hand, I took a deep breath and began. Today, we gather not just to protest, but to reclaim our dignity and to stand united against cultures that dehumanize us. We are here to show that our voices matter. Applause erupted like thunder, igniting a trail of enthusiasm that fanned out through the crowd. In that moment, I realized we had already won. We were the change agents, lighting the way for so many who felt lost. News cameras captured our stories as they unfurled. They documented how our pain turned into power. In the weeks following, our movement continued growing. We became a formidable force, demanding reforms, raising awareness, and amplifying voices that had long been muted. Months later, as I sat in my apartment reflecting on our journey, the magnitude of what we had accomplished washed over me. We had not just stood up against an employer. We had opened a conversation that many had feared to initiate. Voices of Valor had become a beacon for change, a force that challenged the very systems meant to silence us. I smiled, realizing that losing my job had been a pivotal turning point, not a tragic end. I had found purpose, resilience, and a community that could uplift each other. In that moment, I felt a full circle of hope as we fostered connections that reminded us that we were never truly alone. As we prepare for whatever comes next, I invite you to join us on this journey. If you've resonated with what we've shared, hit subscribe and follow along. Your voice matters, and together, we can create a ripple of change that extends far beyond the confines of corporate walls. Let's keep this movement alive, and let's ensure that together, we continue to make noise that the world cannot ignore. Thank you for